Hey guys, what's up? It's Kay, and today we'll be doing something different. I'm gonna be teaching you guys how to add details on a robot Damashii figure. So I actually need a couple of stuff which I actually prepared here for you guys. So I'll be mentioning them, or I'll be guiding you, I guess, on what are the things that you need to prepare when you're adding details to your robot Damashii figure. So first, we're gonna start off with panel lining, because that's actually the first thing I do. And just a disclaimer though, this is just how I do things. So if you're doing something different, or if you have a different process on how to detail your kits or your figures, that's fine. I'm just gonna teach you guys how I add details to my figures. I actually had to discover I just actually had to learn everything from scratch. I was practicing on old Damashii figures to figure all these out. But yeah, so I think I was able to do it, and it's pretty easy. Like at first you'll think it's hard. It's just very easy. You just need to invest on some stuff here. So first, since we'll be doing some panel lining, we'll start on the brushes. So I have two fine tip brushes here. Let me just zoom in, focus. Okay, so the other one is a little bit thinner than the other one, because the reason for this one is when we look at the Kshatriya, which I will be working on in a few hours, you notice that some panel lines are actually thicker, like this one and the one on the legs, and there are thinner panel lines, which is the one on the head. So I'll be using the thicker brush on the thicker panel lines, and the thinner one on the thinner ones. So that's pretty much it. And so that's done. And next thing is I have this thing here, and this is where I put the paints and mix it up with the lighter fluid. So I'll be using this one for my panel lining color, as my panel lining color. It's Africa mustard. I'm not really sure if it's mustard. I just see it as as brown, but it has a good shade on it. So I'll be using this. And normally I actually learned this recently. I didn't know that there's paints that's a little bit smaller. So I invested on this one, which is pretty much the same color. And it's actually cheaper. I actually prefer this one now, but if you have these, you can also use this. But I want to use this one first, because I want to make sure this thing is done before I use these things. But yeah, you can also use this one. But we're gonna use this one first. And so we have the brush, the paint, and what you actually need to do is put on some paint on your palette and mix it up with a little bit of lighter fluid, and I'm gonna show you guys how to do that later also. And next, once panel lining is done, we're gonna go to decal application. So I have some decals here, so you can see they're all white ones. And since I'll be doing some decal application on the Kshatriya, I have some decals specifically for the Kshatriya. So as you can see, I'm not really sure if you can see that, but yeah, this one's for the Kshatriya. Then once everything is in place, or once panel lining is done, once the decals are done, you're gonna put this one. Mine's almost out, but this is a decal softener. This is to make sure all the decals will lock in place, so that way it doesn't move. It's gonna stick to the plastic. And once everything is done, the last thing that you'll do is to add flat coat on it, and this is what I like best. This shit is good. And this one's Testers. It's an American brand. If you guys have Tamiya, I'm not really hearing a lot of good stuff when it comes to Tamiya flat coat, so I actually prefer this one. This one's flat coat, and it gives a nice finish to it, kind of like a GFF flat coat or matte coating. So yep, that's it. We're gonna go ahead and start working on the panel lines. I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, so moving on, let me just focus on the other ones. Okay, so moving on, we'll be doing the panel lines on here. As you can see, my Kshatriya, I actually took off its head because I'll be working on the head first. So basically what you're going to do is get your paint, and I'm gonna put a little bit of paint on here. I know I am using too much, but since I had no idea what paints to get back then, I actually discovered late that I can use this one instead, but I'll be working with this one. So I'm gonna just shake it for a bit. Awkward, right? Alright. Let me just shake this for more. Alright. So there we go. So what I'm gonna do is put a little bit of paint maybe in here. I'll be using this one, this space right here. Oh, just oop. Okay, just one more. Okay, and let me see, is that good? Not really liking that color. Give me 1 second while I mix it up. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So what I actually did is I mixed that brown paint that you guys saw earlier and added red and gray to it. Let me just see how this will turn out if I mix this. Give me 1 second. Alright, thank you guys for waiting. So when I mix the red, the gray and the brown paints, I got the shading of this color. So this is what I needed for the Kshatriya. I know it looks weird because most of us use black for panel lining, but I'm more into that subtle lining for my figures. So this is the shade that I want. So once you guys have that shade that you guys want, or has that color that you guys want on your palette, so I'm just mixing it up. So now what you need to do next is pull out your lighter fluid, or if you guys have thinner, you can use that as well, but I'm gonna use this one on mine. Just put a little bit, and you want to make sure that it's not too thick and not too watery at the same time, so the consistency should be perfect. It's just really up to you. If you want it thick, that's going to be harder to clean later bit. So yeah, I think this one's perfect. You see how it's not that watery as well. Alright, so we have our mixture of paint here. So like I told you guys, there are some lining on the Kshatriya. A few of them are thick and a few of them are thin, and we'll be starting on the head. And this one, let me just zoom in. I'm using my DSLR right now because my wife went to Japan, and she actually used the one that's actually better. Alright, so I'm using our old camera. Alright, so once you have your mixture, all you have to do is just follow those lines, just like how you do your gunpla. And you see the lining on there. I'll be working on that. You see how it just whew. I know it, you know, if there's excess paint, that's fine. You can clean that later on. And this is just how I do stuff. If you think I'm doing it wrong, yeah, I totally agree with you. Like I said, I just learned everything by just trying it out. Like I wanted to add details on my robot Damashii figure, and no one hasn't. I only know a few people who are doing it, so I figured I should, I should like do this thing, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna look great, because out of the box, robot Damashii figures are pretty plain, and that's one thing I don't like about it, especially for me. When I started collecting, I actually started with GFF figures, and if you guys have one of those, you see how GFF figures are already pre-painted with panel lines and decals, so I got used to that. And when they released the robot Damashii line, I didn't really like them at first, because they didn't really come with panel lines, so yeah. And I figured I'll just add details to mine and make it look like a GFF figure. Maybe that would work, which it did. It actually, so robot Damashii figures with panel line looks actually better than GFF figures. So yeah, right now, as you can see, I'm just doing this really easily. So you see how easy it was to work on it. So right now we have the head, which is completely panel lined, and I'm just waiting for it to dry. Oh, sorry, let me just focus that. Alright, so I'm just waiting for this thing to dry. And that's, I know there's a lot of excess paints, but we're gonna clean that off later, and then it's gonna look great. So let's focus, you know how I mentioned earlier that there's a thicker line. So I did one of the things, or one of the parts that has a thin panel line. What I'll do next is the one of the binders, and just to let you guys know. And then after that, we'll fast forward a bit, and I'll work on the whole figure. Okay, so I have one of the binders here. You see how that's really thick compared to what I did with the head. You can see how, how thick that or how wide that panel lines is. So I'm gonna pull out my thicker brush. Oh shit, my battery's running out. That's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna pull out the thicker brush here, and this one's gonna be easier because ooh, look at that. So that's just how you do it. You see how easy that was? And this one I'm gonna try and put something on here, see if it's gonna stay. Though I'm not really sure if it's gonna stay, but we're gonna try that out. We're gonna clean the excess paints anyway. And on that round thingy here, we're gonna put some lining on there too. And no, that's not gonna work. Okay, and then we'll put some here, something there. Oh, there's the other side as well. So we'll be working here. All right. So you guys can actually see how easy it is to panel line. So it's actually the paint mixture that's working that's doing its thing, not really me. It's just it's just pretty easy. You guys just have to try it, because even if you mess up, you can still clean it, which is good. So inside the binders, you'll see there's a few more panel lines there. So I'm gonna work on this one. Let's see, there are some panel lines that's not really deep enough, so that's actually the ones I'm having trouble with when it comes to adding panel lines onto the figure. So I'm just gonna do this. Like, the good thing about adding some paints on parts that don't have panel lines, it's actually gonna give you a weathered effect. So that's one thing I like about doing. So I'm working on the I'm working on the panel lines on these funnels right now. Alright, there you go. So I think that one's in. So the first binder is done. So that was pretty fast. So yeah, I messed up on this one. My finger touched it for some reason, but that's fine. It's an easy fix later. And I told you guys it's gonna give you a weathered effect later once everything is done. So that's it. So give me a few minutes or a few hours, maybe, yeah, a few minutes. I'll be working on the whole figure. Oh, let's see. Let me just try this one. Alright guys, thank you so much for waiting, I guess. So there, as you can see, I actually finished the whole thing after 30 minutes of panel lining, and this guy doesn't have too much panel lining on it, so it was easy doing some panel lines. And as you can see, it looks disgusting right now. You know, there's excess paint all over the place, and like I said, if there's excess paint, that's fine because we're gonna be cleaning that up. So we can start with the head actually. And also I forgot to mention, you know, shout out to my friends in our robot Damashii group that are pretty hesitant in adding panel lines on their figures. Like I kind of understand why, because they invested so much on a figure and they don't really want to ruin it. So they wanted to do it, but they want someone to show them how. So this is actually what I'm doing right now. Just to help them out, because I know they wanted to add details on there, but they don't want to ruin the figure. But there are other collectors that they don't want to add details to it. They just, you know, like the figure as it is. To me, I'm more of a GFF guy, so I like adding details to my figure. So going back, so here's the head, and as you can see, there's excess paint to it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean that off. So I'm gonna put this here, and we're gonna use the lighter fluid, or if you have a paint thinner, that's fine as well. I actually use this one because it's, I guess, cheaper. Alright, so I'm just gonna put so we're gonna have some Q-tips, a lot of them, especially if it's a big figure like this. You'll be doing a lot of cleaning, especially when you're gonna do some thick lining or thick paints on certain parts. Alright, so we're gonna focus on the head again. There we go. So you can see how it's completely dry now, and we're just gonna remove the excess paint. So you can just do this as careful as you can. As you can see, you know, the paint is now sticking to the Q-tip, which is good. So I'm just cleaning off the excess paints right now. And like I told you guys, what I like about brown panel lining, especially with these kind of color, it's gonna give it a weathered effect. And you're not even using that weathering effect by Tamiya too, so it's already giving you this effect already. So pretty much, how do you say that? Just clean off the excess paint. And everything should be good. So it's pretty easy. It's actually relaxing. If it's your first time, it keeps your mind off of things. Especially me right now. Alright, so there you go. Alright, so I think this is good enough. Right, I missed a spot there. Alright, so there you go. So this one's clean now. As you can see, it's completely different from what it looked like. Oop, I better clean that out. Alright, so it's completely different on how it looked like earlier. So this is what it looks like now. So it's much better now. It's cleaner and the excess paints are gone. Alright, see that one? Pretty nice, right? Okay, so we're gonna work on the binder next. Just one binder, just one of the binders. Oops, sorry, she made a split. All right, we're gonna do one of the binders, and then I'll be cleaning the whole thing. So again, we're gonna get our Q-tip, put lighter fluid on there, and let me focus on the camera here. All right, and we're gonna clean off the excess paint. So yeah, it's actually gonna give out that weathered effect, because it's military colored, and it's gonna give you that military feel once you clean off the excess paints. So as you can see, it's just coming right off easily, and I'm not doing anything, and I'm just cleaning off the excess paint. I know it looks disgusting right now, but it's gonna look better once everything is cleaned off. That I promise you guys. So what's hard about thick paints or thick panel lines is that it's gonna put a smudge on there, so you can see so you're gonna have to clean this a little bit more than how you do the thin panel lines. And again, since it's gonna create a smudge, it's gonna give you that weathered effect also. So I'm just cleaning that off. So you see how the excess paint is going away. And there you go. It's almost done. Now, one thing I don't like about tutorial videos is that it takes time, and it's pretty boring if you're just watching it. Okay, this one. So also, if you think your Q-tip is getting dirty, I suggest don't use it anymore and just grab a fresh one, because it's gonna, you know, spread that smudge on your figure, and it's gonna be harder for it to clean. So just make sure to grab fresh ones every time that the Q-tip is getting dirty. And I actually remembered one of the things that people are hesitant about doing this to their figures is because they said that lighter fluid ruins the plastic of kits. And I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and it never really destroyed any plastic on my RD figures or Robot Damashii figures. The only problem I had was that if the certain part is painted, then that's gonna, you know, if a certain part that you panelized is painted, then that's gonna give you problems, because since you're using paint thinner or lighter fluid, it's gonna remove that paint. So you have to be extra careful when you're panel lining painted parts. Now with the Kshatriya, nothing is painted on here. Everything is just colored plastic. So you can see, guys, it's almost done. I'm just removing some excess paints. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I think that's done. And this one's a little bit thick, if you can see. So I'm just gonna grab another fresh Q-tip and clean it again. So I want to make sure everything is just subtle. You know, I'm not really a fan of black panel lines because it looks too dark for me. So I prefer purple. I also use gray sometimes, and with these kinds of figures, I'd rather pick brown over the it's almost done, over black. Alright, I think that's good enough. Nope, I lied, sorry. It's not fine by me! It's not fine by me! Alright, what else do we have here? So I'm just gonna clean off more excess paint. Okay, sorry it's taking a while, guys. It's my first time doing a tutorial video. Alright, I think that's good enough. And we're gonna clean that thrust beam cannon there. I'm gonna do it on the other side too. Alright. Alright, so there we go. So one of the binders is done and it looks pretty cool. It's way different than how it looked like before, and I'm gonna clean that later. And so yeah, so give me a few more minutes, guys. I'm gonna clean the whole figure, and then after that we're gonna start on the decal applications on this. Okay? Alright, so sorry about that, it took a while. Alright, sorry about that. So it took me a while to clean the binders. That was the hardest part in doing the whole panel lining on the Kshatriya. But anyway, I finished panel lining the whole figure. And let's zoom in on this. Alright, so you can see the brown lining on there. The one on the binders. I also did the leg, so he doesn't have too much panel lining on here, but it was the binders that was hard to do. But anyway, since the whole figure is done with the panel lines, what we're gonna do next is the decal application. So I'll be right back. I'll be teaching you how to put decals, or how I put decals on my figures.